Hey, it is Faith Talk Live. I'm Rick Probst.
And I'm Dan Ratcliffe.
On Zoom and on the radio, what a pleasure to talk to Scott Wilder of Save the Children. It is a day of hope with Save the Children today, and we want to feed some kids that normally get a breakfast and a lunch at school, but because of the pandemic, they're stuck at home. So the expert here there on Zoom, we want to pick his brain. Scott, how are you?
I'm very well, guys. It's great to be with you. It's just such a pleasure, and we're going to do some really fun and very productive things together today.
Yeah,
It's good to have you. Your reputation is worldwide, and now we get to actually work with you a bit.
It's a huge disappointment, isn't it? What you actually experience, like, oh, that's the guy. Okay, not the biggest deal.
We'll
That's not what I thought he looked like. Why does he look like that?
We'll look for those cards and letters in the mail when we get back to the office.
Yeah.
But seriously, though, we do want to connect with you guys. It is a day of hope. And as I mentioned, because of the pandemic, some kids aren't getting fed. And before we get into the particulars, how did you get involved with Save the Children? Because you're an old, no pun intended, no.
Old?
I didn't mean old. I mean old. How about OL? Old
No,
radio guy.
You said it accurately the first time. I spent over 25 years on the radio in Dallas on your side of the microphone.
Mhm.
And for many years, we had the great pleasure of working with some wonderful nonprofits. And when we stopped the radio thing several years ago, some of those people, to borrow a phrase, they said, "Whither thou goest, I will go." And they wanted to go with us. And they said, "Would you keep talking about our stuff? Because it's been effective." And we said, "It's a pleasure." So we formed a little company, and it's a two-man shop, the man and woman shop. And we do our best to get the word out. And we are so pleased to have Save the Children, a 100-year-old organization in 125 countries around the world, as one of our premier clients. We only have 3, and they are our premier client, and we're excited about the opportunity to work with them. I've traveled around the world, been to my last trip to Africa was to Niger about a year ago, and it was my 14th time to Africa.
Wow.
So I have seen many things over the years, and normally when I have the chance to talk about Save the Children, I'm talking about something over there. Wherever
Right.
over there is over there.
Right.
And I've said on the radio before that it's a little bit tough because I come back over here, and it's like I go over there and I, comfort the afflicted. Then I come back over here and afflict the comfortable. We're so comfortable here. We don't really understand about the way the world really is out there. We're pretty cocooned and siloed in our wonderful, blessed world. But in addition to the work that Save the Children does overseas, which is in 125 countries, they also work in times of crisis and disaster right here in America. And also through 365, or this year, 366 days a year, also right here in America where the need is great. I'll give you 2 examples real quick. In Central Valley, California, the children of migrant workers, those children have nothing. And Save the Children is there to work alongside schools, both Christian schools and government schools, to make sure that those kids have the meals that they need, and they have what they need in terms of teaching and after school programs and whatever. The other place that we've been recently is to the Appalachian region, in the southern part of Tennessee, which is really desperately poor. And in fact, those kids, the place we were was the second or third most dangerous city in all of Tennessee.
Wow.
And those kids, their parents might have been, the mill closed or the factory closed. They got nothing. There's no job. And so what happens sometimes is people turn to, the opioid thing, or they turn to the meth thing. So these kids, these little second graders, they have, one or both parents incarcerated. They got nothing. I remember being on a Monday and seeing a little girl whose hair clearly had not been brushed since she had been at school on Friday. And so these kids are on the school programs, the lunch, breakfast, and even after school snack. I remember being on a Friday and handing bags of food to kids they could take home over the weekend so they would have enough food to get back on Monday. Just one quick story. A little girl, a second grader, sits down for what she normally does at the beginning of the day. She sits down and has her free breakfast. So she's talking to her friends, and she's eating her food, her little hands, eating her food, and she says, "This is so good, isn't it? Isn't this delicious?" And her friends say, yeah, it's good. It's okay. And she said, well, it's just so good. I mean, yesterday's lunch was good, but that was a long time ago.
Mm.
And this second grade girl in America has no sense that there is a third meal of the day. Her experience is not that she has a dinner ever. And so when school is closed, these are 30 million children in the U.S. that count not only on schools for education, and in some cases, the safest place they're ever going to be, the place they get the most attention. That's true too.
Mm.
But then on top of that, it's the place they get the only nutrition they really ever have. So Save the Children is standing in the gap and providing 100,000 meals a day to school children who otherwise would be receiving their nutrition at school. And so we are happy to partner and happy to say that $100 will equal 10 full bellies for a day. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner for 10 school children who no longer have access to nutrition they receive at school. So you can think of it differently. If you wanted to, you say $100 could provide it for one child for 10 days. Mm-hmm. So you can do it however you want to do it. But the bottom line is $100 makes a huge difference right now. And so we're excited about the opportunity to, in the middle of this crazy, crazy thing that's going on, be able to come together and do a great thing together. And, I said early on in this, I have a daughter who's 28, twin boys that are 25, and one's in the service, and we haven't seen him in 7 months. And so we're talking about all this stuff. And I said, this thing's going to be over, and there's not going to be we'll be back to normal at some point. Mm-hmm. But what's going to be remembered mm-hmm. is how we treated each other during this time. And so today, if you've been blessed, and the fact that you're listening right now or watching means you're blessed. I used to say on the radio that we've been blessed to bless. And the blessing, why did God bless us so? Is it because we're good or better? Because we are Americans? No. But he blessed us so we bless others. Mm-hmm. And that's true, but it's a bigger picture than that. And I'm 58 years old. But I just kind of came to an epiphany the last year. It's not the full story. The full story is not just that God blesses us because he loves us. He blesses us because he trusts us to be his hands and feet, to be Christ, to be Jesus with skin on. So really, it's not that the blessings are not really just blessings from God to us. They're intended to be blessings from God through us, that we would then be conduits through which those blessings can flow to others. So today, your $100 can provide 10 full breakfast, lunch, and dinners for 10 children school children who right now are doing without because school has been canceled. So we're standing in the gap. You're blessed. This is not, Rick telling you or Dan telling you or Scott telling you or Save the Children telling you. This is God. I really do believe this. This is really God saying, I've blessed you. Will you be the conduit through which I might bless others? So we don't have to say, God, where are you? He's here. He's here because he has blessed us, and we now have the chance. I've said many times, God can do this without me, but I don't want him to. I don't want to miss the blessing. I want to be a part of it. I don't want to have the jersey. I don't want to be on the team. I want to be in the game. Mm-hmm. And the ability to do that right now is just huge. So I'm thrilled for the chance. Obviously, it's really risky to ask a former talk show host to say a few words, but I really am so thrilled. Honestly, I'm so thrilled for the chance to make a difference. And we're just so excited to be with you guys and see what the Lord would do. We're not the convictor and the convincer. We're the communicators. And honestly, we can only mess it up. We can't make it happen. We can keep it from happening by concentrating on ourselves or some weird goal or whatever. God doesn't care about that. He cares about our hearts. And if our hearts are pure, and if we come to him with the opportunity to do what he'd have us do today, we can make a huge difference.
You can do that by 888-884-4836 is the number to call, 888-884-4836, or you can just dial pound 250 and say the word Save the Children, the keyword Save the Children. Scott, now you said $100 feeds 10 kids for a full day, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. How are you able to do that? Because I fed my family last night for $40 and that was for 3.5 meals. How in the world do you do that?
Yeah, it's a really good question, and I think you can imagine that after 100 years, infrastructure has been built,
Mhm.
relationships have been built, coordination has been worked out. That when we were in these places in the United States providing after school. I even hesitate to say the word snack because as an American, we think of like what we would take to the soccer field on Saturday morning. Oh, you mean fruit roll-ups and sugared water? No, I mean really healthy snacks. I mean cheese and fresh fruit and milk, and you get great deals from local vendors that have
Mhm.
been able to be established over a long, long period of time. And so I think the short answer is volume. When you have the opportunity to work in a coordinated way with local vendors, you have the ability to cut prices in ways, especially for such a cause as this. You have the opportunity to do more with less. And so we're excited about that opportunity.
Mm.
Scott Wilder on Zoom and on the radio. It's a day of hope with Save the Children, and we're excited to help. 888-884-4836, the number to call, or dial pound 250 and say the keywords Save the Children. You mentioned something, Scott, earlier about full bellies, and I also read on the Facebook. That's
On
how old I am.
Facebook.
A
Right?
Facebook.
You're
Uh,
real old school.
yeah, yeah. Uh, the Facebook of Save the Children, and they said that full bellies actually give full minds. It makes
Mm.
the brain work. So, these kids are growing, and we want them to get out of their circumstances. We want them to be freed, released from poverty, but they can't do that if their brains aren't working and if their bellies aren't fed.
No, that's exactly right. I mean, one statistic, and you get bogged down in the so the inside baseball. Sorry about that. The inside baseball of it all. You get bogged down in all of that. But the truth is that if a child is not reading at third grade level by the third grade, the chances of all manner of bad things increases.
Mhm.
The chance that they will not get a high school diploma, the fact that they would not go to college, the increased probability that they would end up incarcerated. I mean, it is just unbelievable the impact that making sure a child is reading at third grade level by third grade is really important. So when we were in Appalachia, we were there, and these kids, I mean, really honest, and I've been around the world, man. I've been around the world for the last 25 years, more than 35 times around the world. I've had kids of all colors and looks cling to my legs because they just couldn't believe they were near something that appeared to be safe. When you talk to these kids, when you're there with these kids, and they are there in Appalachia, and they spend time with you after school, and they want you to read to them or listen to them read. That's huge. So Save the Children does many, many, many things. I mean, all around the world. I mean, purifying water, emergency nutrition, which is really what I concentrate on, is emergency nutrition in parts of Africa. I'm talking about children that are actually one day they're there and the next day they literally are gone.
Mhm.
I was in Niger, and I was in a hospital with 50 kids in beds, all under the age of 2. And the second day, bed number 2 was empty, and they get 50 kids a day. And I asked Ali, who was my minder there, I said, "Where is the little girl that we saw, in this bed yesterday?" And he said, "Oh, she is no more."
Mm.
And so I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "She died." And so Save the Children does all manner of great things around the world. But in times of crisis and disaster, what is that thing? And I always sort of laughed about it, but it really is true. And I've traveled 37 of 52 weeks last year.
Oh.
So I heard this a bunch of times. In the event of the oxygen mask coming down, secure your mask first. I always thought, well, of course I'm going to. Absolutely. But thank you for the permission. But in the same way, these kids, if we can get them to where their bellies are full, they are then prepared to be contributing members of society, to rise above what their circumstance is. These are kids that have had no say in where we find them. They've had no say in the desperate place that they are. And I would just say, all you have to do is look at your own kids, and you say, hey, that could be me. That could be my kids. You know, there's a phrase that the world uses sometimes. I say the world. I know it's real church talk. I'm sorry about that. But there's a phrase that is often used. The phrase is, "There, but for the grace of God, go I."
Mhm.
But I've always felt like that as Christians, we should quickly follow that phrase with the phrase, "Then there, with the grace of God, I go."
Mm.
If we were to say, "There, but for the grace of God, go I," we should say, "Then there, with the grace of God, I go." You know, if we've received grace, we dispense grace. If we receive mercy, we are merciful. If we receive love, then we love. And this is not a tough thing. You know, I'm the fishing uncle in my family, and what that means is when the extended family goes to the lake. When the kids were little, my brothers and my sister, they would say, "I'll go down to the lake. Uncle Scott will fish with you," and that meant that I was down there sometimes with 8 kids under the age of 10. And I remember one time being down there, and my niece actually adopted 2 adopted nieces, and one of my nieces, Julia, was wearing a sort of a winter puffy coat, the puffy coat with the fur along the hood,
Mhm.
and she got a little close to the edge of the dock, and she did fall in. She
Mm.
just fell right in the water, and that coat just filled up with water, and she just dropped like a stone. I mean, like a stone. Let me tell you something. I didn't think about it. I didn't pray about it. I didn't say, you know what? If at the end of the day I have enough energy
Mm.
left over, I'm going to come back and I'm going to save her. She needed help right then. And I didn't pray about it. I didn't think about it. I just reached in and I grabbed her and pulled her out. That's what we're talking about today.
Mm.
We're talking about kids that are that desperate. And without school, they don't have nutrition. And so today your $100 can make a huge difference
Mhm.
in really saving the life of a child. That might be a stretch, but certainly making sure that they have every opportunity to do what Save the Children is guided by all the time. Every child has a right to a healthy start. Every child has a right to safety and protection from harm. Every child has a right to education, and every child worldwide has a right to meet her potential.
Mhm.
So that's what we're talking about today. And if you're listening, you've been blessed, but it's not intended to flow to you. It is intended to flow through you. And that's what we're doing together today.
That's so
888
good.
884 4836 888 884 4836 or just dial pound 250 on your cell phone. Say the keyword save the children. That's how you can give. $100 feeds 10 kids. Do it now.
All right, Scott Wilder. Let's do this, Scott. We got to take a break, and we want to talk more. Maybe hear some more stories. Also, a breakdown of goes from donation to Save the Children. How's it distributed? I know you got all the details. We'll talk
Sure.
about that right after this break. It is Faith Talk Live, a day of hope. I'm Rick Probst.
And I'm Dan Ratcliffe.
We'll be right back with Save the Children.